I'm more just like the types of shots that they're getting.
guys,
And to me, when we can get those
Mazzulla
guys good
talking
looks
right
within
now
our
about the
offense
win.
because of the way we're executing, that just makes us better.
Joe, what stood out about the way the guys defended tonight? What was different, perhaps, than previous games?
Like I said, I think our ball pressure, our pickup points were good. I think our shift activity was good. I think we're active. We had multiple efforts on that. So I think just getting off to a good start from a physicality and a ball pressure standpoint was key.
When there's a stretch when the guys aren't getting or putting forth the type of effort you want there, how do you kind of refocus them? And was there anything said, or is this a group that knows when to turn it on, so to speak?
No, you don't have to say anything. I mean, I think it's just a matter of continuing to emphasize just the small decisions that you got to make daily that just go into winning. So we did it today. We got to do it again tomorrow. So really just continue to hammer home the process of winning and try to stick to that as best we can.
Joe, what do you think of the energy tonight? Chris has alluded to the lack of energy in Toronto. What did you think of the energy? Was there anything different before the game about the focus, the locker room, anything like that you noticed?
I think, like I said, I think we got off to a good start from a ball pressure standpoint. I thought our physicality was good on both ends. I think getting good looks offensively and then, having great ball pressure on the defensive end. I thought those things kind of helped us get off to a good start, and we were able to sustain that throughout the game. Even if it didn't go well, we missed some offensive rebound opportunities, gave up some fouls, but I just thought the ball pressure and the physicality was high level today.
Jaylen had 5 shots in the first half. He mostly focused on defense. On consecutive possessions, he had steals, and when he couldn't gather the ball out of bounds,
that was great.
Yeah, you clapped like you really liked that. What did you like about that, and what did you like about Jaylen's effort to kind of show a bit more engagement probably than Toronto?
I liked just how he was thoroughly intense, and I think that's important for us. He brings a different level of a mentality to us at times, and I thought tonight he brought a great level of intensity, and he had 20 points on 12 shots, and he has the ability to impact the game without shooting. I thought he just impacted it in many different ways. Even towards the end of the game, to close the game, he had the kick ahead to Al in the corner for there. So his ability to just impact the game in different ways and bring a high level of intensity is important for us to just continue to get better. So I thought that he did that.
Well, I know it's one possession that you missed the 3, but it was like literally 5 passes on the floor.
Yeah.
Great possession. The ball moved. Was there a lot of things you liked that you saw about just kind of your not energy, but just kind of the focus and attention to detail as you point out, just the things that seem like Celtics basketball?
I got we had 3 offensive rebounds on that possession, and we just kind of made the right play. So that has happened even when it hasn't gone well for us. So, I think it's more about just understanding that we have to continue to make those plays regardless of if it's going well or not. And, that to me is sticking to the process. A play like Jaylen that you're talking about to where we don't come up with it, but we had the right intentions on offense, moving the bat. Like, just those things are important regardless of if you're winning or losing. We could pick 15 of those from the games that we haven't played as well, and it's just a matter of building on those and being more consistent in them.
Joe, so stylistically with Kristaps being back, how do you guys have to play differently in terms of kind of fitting in as he's continued to get back to being himself? And what kind of things do you look for?
What you think of Sherrod last night in Maine?
Back to himself?
It's not about fitting in or doing anything. It's just more about taking what the defense gives us. Bobby. And so, you take a look at the 2 games that we've played. JT didn't play in game 1, and so they were able to match up differently. And JT plays in this one, and now they have to change their matchups, which changes the way KP can be effective. And so we have multiple guys that can be effective in different ways, and it's just a matter of taking what the defense gives you, and he's unique enough to that he just continues to figure out ways that he could be able to do that. So every game is different, so it's not necessarily about fitting in as much as it's just working through the challenges that each team represents and how we could solve those problems on a nightly basis.
And going with him and Al tonight, was that part of the urgency of this game? And could you see Kristaps going tomorrow potentially?
No, we've played Al and KP, before, and we haven't decided yet. We'll see how that goes.
Joe, it feels.
Joe Mazzulla, ladies and gentlemen, as the Celtics defeat the Orlando Magic tonight in a good bounce back game.
John,
what?
I know you're not going to start the show without the intro.
Quiet, Jimmy! You ruined it.
Hit the intro.
Let me cook.
Cook.
John, keep stirring. John, keep stirring. Keep stirring.
Let me cook, buddy.
Let him cook, he said.
I'm halfway through the intro, on the way to our intro, and then Jimmy calls for the intro. Here you go.
Thank you. Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
And now,
you don't intro the intro. You don't intro the intro. The intro is the intro.
Freaking pro, dude. This is what I do. It was I brought down. So here's how I would have called it from the booth if I were producing. All right.
Oh, here we go.
Mute Joe. Voiceover under. Start to intro what you're about to do. Play the intro. Hit the show. That's what I'd be telling the producer. That's the producer cue in the ear.
Oh,
but I'm also the talent, so I'm doing both.
Only there is a way to hit.
Here comes Jimmy. You gotta play the intro, right?
You gotta play the intro. The intro is the intro. You don't need some fancy producer to say, "Hey, hit that button that plays the intro."
I'm just telling you, that's how it goes. This is how we flow.
No,
that's how you do it smoothly. How you don't do it is for many chefs in the kitchen to just call for whatever they want. Sherrod, would you like to see something? You want me to put on? Should I do something goofy for you?
The best hits of John Zannis. Play me a little bit of
that. Yeah. What do you want? You want to blame pie? Here we go. Come out, guys. Panic meter? Yes.
This guy didn't like. He's got to do this fancy production. Just play the intro, man. Everybody start the show with the intro.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God.
Producer boy.
Just let me
tell everybody. Why don't you tell everybody what happened before we went to Joe Mazzulla? Since you got it all figured out.
Anyway, I'm glad we started this way.
Got it all figured out.
Glad we started this way.
There's a reason we didn't start with the intro.
Zannis has went mad with power. Yeah. Anyway, so here we are. Celtics win, and let's get a sense of it. From the line of questioning with Joe Mazzulla, guys, and again, we've got Sherrod Blakely here, Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning, and Noah are at the Garden. Are we good, Jimmy? Should I run the intro one more time? Should we just go?
We're good now. Now we're good.
So, guys, the reporters seem to be kind of like, yeah, it was pretty good, right? But still not great. Your thought on this game? And I look, we have to be fair, right? Orlando's missing 4 of their top 5 scorers, one of whom's not coming back this year. But they're depleted. They're offensively challenged to begin with. Banchero's great, but there's not much you could do there to score. But I still thought the Celtics were – look, what were we saying about them in the last few games? Unserious. They're unserious right now. They didn't have to be perfect tonight. They just had to show that they were serious, and I think they did.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the guy that really kind of set the tone was Jaylen. Not just with his defense, but and they alluded to it in the presser, the fact that he took very few shots early on. I mean, it was clear that he came into this game with the mindset that I've got to set the tone defensively. And it was little things that he was doing that I don't think he has been doing with the consistency that we saw tonight. When teams are setting screens, I thought he did a much better job staying attached to the offensive player. And when he did go under, I didn't think he gave them enough airspace to feel comfortable just raising up. So, and I think there was a trickle-down effect from that. This was one of the few games where it felt as though their defense led the offense to get going and not the other way around. One of the low-key factors was the fact that the Celtics made their first 5 threes. And we know when they start doing that, then all of a sudden it becomes shot jackapalooza, where they just start jacking up threes all left and right. And they never did that. They actually, rather than do what most people say, which is take what the defense gives you, the Celtics decided to take what is theirs. And they could get to the basket pretty much any and every time they wanted to. And they did a lot of that early on. And that opened up things up later on in the game for wide open threes and things like that. It was a good effort on their part. But to John's point, this isn't Cleveland at full strength, or Oklahoma City or Milwaukee, or the type of teams that, will challenge you. This was a very depleted Orlando team that's scrappy as hell, but this was not the best version of Orlando you saw, not even close.
No, but I'll give them credit just because we'd be trashing them if they didn't bring it in the end. Yeah. They lost to a beat up Magic team. Like, they've been either losing or playing down to previous opponents that have been either not close to the talent-wise or haven't been healthy either. So I'll give them credit. The shots fell early in this one. I think they were, 60% from the field in the first half. They were 5 of 5 from 3 in the first quarter. So, again, I think Mazzulla was asked something similar, like was the defense because the offense was, kind of clicking early on or vice versa. Who knows what it was? But the one thing I'll say is that these guys did show up tonight. Borderline hard hat game. Not going to wear it because I'm kind of like, you don't show up for work for 2 weeks. Don't just expect to get like a medal like the day you decide to show up. The hard hat's not going on, partially because of the opponent as well in the situation. But it was a good effort by the Celtics. Both ends of the basketball court. I like the aggressiveness. Jaylen got involved early, driving to the hoop. It just felt like these guys played with a little bit more of a purpose tonight. Like they knew that they were going to come out and play hard and win this game. And that's why, that's the consistency issue that I think we're going to probably have with this team, is that we know what they're capable of when they go out and do the thing and try hard and just play at their level. It's not going to be easy to get them to do that on a night in, night out basis. Their backs were kind of up against the wall after the performance in Toronto, right? They didn't really have a choice. It's like when you get scolded, you're going to be on your best behavior for, the next day, right? And then what? You're going to fall back into your old habits again, or are you going to learn from it? So I guess time will tell. But as far as this game's concerned, solid performance on both ends. And it was good to see Porzingis, hitting shots early on, and, Tatum doing his thing. And again, Brown, who's had some off nights here. I liked what he gave them.
Yeah. And a few things jump out to me. They won every quarter. They also got out to big starts to start the game and to start the third quarter, where you've seen some lapses there from them. And that's that was my only fear, is like, okay, it was one of those shots falling halves, and they're like, we got these guys and we could probably post the rest of the way and keep them at bay and win this. And you see that third quarter dip into like, oh crap, it's a friggin' 3 points, a one possession game. And like, that's what I was afraid might happen. And it didn't, because they came out, and took things seriously in the third quarter. The 3-point shots, they only put up 35. And a few of them were late too, to jack up that total. This was not a heavy 3-point game. They got to the line 22 times. That was also great. And Joe messed around a little bit and did a couple different things, and we wanted to see adjustments. We'll talk about all of them. Kada,
rotational stuff.
Number one, where the F has this guy been? I don't want to be Bobby and like with, and with my Kada agenda here, but like his banishment has made no sense to me at all. I don't understand. Matchup specific, I can understand, but just forgetting that he existed for a stretch of time there, as Joe did, was weird. I don't know if he did something bad and like, was being punished for it, but thank you, Benjamin.
It is bizarre.
Thank you for saying that. Day one.
Thanks,
day
Benjamin.
oneer. I have a couple of hellos. I keep forgetting, and I'm going to get to them a little bit later. But Benjamin made me think about it because I ran into a couple of OGs as well, who I did want to give a shout out to. I'll circle back. The other one, Joe messed around with the rotation. In the third quarter, he took Tatum out at the halfway point, and he let Brown stay in there a little bit longer because Brown had been suffering, coming back in and trying to run that second quarter unit when Tatum was playing the entire first. The third quarter was Brown's best quarter of a while, like maybe since the last time they played Orlando. He was great in that quarter, and he did it by just being aggressive and taking control of the game. He got to, I got the numbers right here, 13 points, 8 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists in that third quarter alone. That was terrific. Tatum, in his moments, he cooked as well. He had a big second quarter, I believe. So they did everything they needed to. They cooked.
Everybody's cooking tonight.
Everyone's cooking, starting with Jimmy Toscano. Yeah.
Everybody but you.
Everybody but me. Everybody but me. I'm like reaching in the oven, and Jimmy grabs both my wrists. Like, nope, that pie. Keep
John
that out of the oven.
He was about to cook, man. Not on my watch, baby.
Keep it out of the oven.
Only I heat check.
Yeah. So that was good. All of that. I love all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really seemed that from the very outset of the game that Joe came into this game with an agenda of getting.
And we're going to hear Brown at the podium, I've been told, in a minute. So I might pop in, Sherrod. Just want to give you a heads up. Go ahead.
Okay. No, but they played 9 guys within the first 9 minutes of the game. I don't know if Joe has gone that deep into the bench that quick. And it was good to see all those guys out there doing their thing, making plays, and just really showing their value. I mean, it's hard to evaluate how well these guys can play together if you literally don't play them together. And Orlando to me was a perfect, test ground for something like that because of how beaten and battered they are, and how even with your second unit type guys out there playing earlier than usual, you can still you're giving yourself enough of a cushion where if they suck, it's not going to absolutely debilitate you from winning the game. So.
This was probably one of the best games for the starters as a whole, right? Because, especially as of late,
goodness, right?
We've been talking about them as if they can't. Yeah. And so, I think it was the last few games, they've all been minuses, but tonight, I mean, they're all in the plus, 20 plus, everybody except Porzingis, who was a plus 14. Just a really good game from that unit, which again, consider the opponent situation as well, but you still want to see good things happening out there. And I felt like these guys just looked like a more cohesive starting lineup that we're used to seeing from last season, whereas opposed to this year, it's been bumpy, whether it's Porzingis coming in or whatever, it's been Jaylen, not gelling or whatever it is with
don't say that.
Being a little bit with the rotations, I think a little bit. I think it's been the real thing. But
Jimmy,
hey Jaylen.
The rotations were a little bit different tonight too, weren't they? They mixed things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Took Tatum out in the first there.
What's funny? You mentioned the starters, Jimmy. Just going through the plus minus numbers. Porzingis was a low for the starters with a plus 14.
Right.
But you throw in Al at plus 13 also if you want to call him the 6th starter, and everyone else is 20 or more. Holiday 20, Derek White 21, Jaylen Brown 22, Jayson Tatum 24. So a get right game for the starters, get right game for some poor guys that just needed to see a 3-pointer or 2 drop. Al Horford knocks down 2 of 3. Sam Hauser knocks down 2 of 4. Holiday gets 3 to drop. 3 3-pointers. Derek White, again, not great, but 2 for 7. That first one dropped early in the first, and you could feel like everybody sigh all at once. Brown decided, I'm not going to take a lot of them. And he 1 out of 2. And that was fine. That was fine. You didn't necessarily need to be gunning all game long here. They imposed their will in different ways. So, again, and it ended up being 37, not 35 3-pointers, but still way, way, way below their average of about 48 on the year. But nice to see some of them drop. What?
Nice to see
These things don't come. This doesn't come in red unless this number gets this big.
Damn, JT.
I'm eating this weekend, boys. I'm eating. Thank you, Tatum.
Yeah. So
now
this was right.
Cooking, Jimmy. Now we're cooking, Jimmy.
See that, John? I know what I'm doing. I think rotations were getting stagnant up until today. So seeing a shakeup pay off this well is refreshing. Love the show, guys.
Thanks, JT.
Hey,
sorry for everything I've said about you and everything I will say eventually.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal.
The post and pre-apology. Love it.
And for anything I might say, no doubt about it. I love all of that stuff. All good stuff. A good get right game in a lot of ways for Joe. To shake things up a little bit, for the starters to look good playing together. And I'll tell you this, did we panic? Did I panic? I mean,
you didn't do the show. Yeah, you coward.
Right. So I have the
you would have been.
So the answer is no, Jimmy. He did not panic.
So what I can say is you guys, including Noah, lost your collective minds last game, deservedly so. Because it was a disaster. Everybody, they deserve.
Is JT back? Is Tatum back in the chat? Is there a second Jayson Tatum?
Get out of here.
Oh, damn.
You see what I see?
Stop glazing. What is it? The kids tell me what that means, please. I love it.
I don't know. Sherrod, are you a kid?
I feel like I'm not going to stop glazing.
I'm not sure what glazing means.
Huh?
I think it's one of those terms that has evolved.
Blowing smoke. Maybe it's I
think it means like we're gushing all over them. We're sucking up.
Yeah, gushing. Hyping. Yeah. Well, I'm still gonna. I mean, that's not gonna get us to stop.
Another 50. I'll tell you you're pretty. Like whatever you want.
I'll tell you whatever you want. I'll stay here all night.
I'll stay all night. Thanks, JT, again.
Blazing is like kissing.
It might be the actual Jayson Tatum throwing around money like that.
That'd be cool.
So you guys probably freaked out, and you probably should have. And I would have been really.
They cracked Noa. They got Noa. Like
they got her.
The first time was like not happy with what she saw. She wasn't just like, oh, not a big deal. Yeah, she looked rattled. Thank you, Judah.
So I'll tell you this. I watched back the game. I was kind of half in, half out. I didn't get a chance to watch, or else I would have jumped on. I wasn't scheduled to be on the show. I would have. I just didn't see enough of it to be able to say I didn't like this, So I would have just been, old man yelling from whatever. But what I did see afterwards, here's what shook me the most. Okay, it was Kristaps Porzingis after the game that shook me, because this guy's been a rock, and this guy's been, all the way through super positive. He's got a great perspective. Kind of feel like he's the pulse of the team in terms of telling us, should I be worried? Should I not be worried? And Porzingis, just 2 games apart in terms of the way he described what was going on here. Here's the difference in those 2 Porzingis bites after games last week.
Some players just, it just happens. Like, it's not like we're not trying. Like, oh, I'm thinking this guy go, I'm not going, and we just stay in the same place, and it doesn't look perfect. But we're gonna get past it. We're gonna be fine. We'll figure it out. I'm telling you, like, I'm confident we'll bounce back. We're just having not the prettiest moment right now as a team, and it's completely normal, So I don't need to be negative and believe me, we'll figure it out. Yeah, I think we played with no spirit, with no personality, and it's just weak performance from us, honestly. So we just play with no personality. It's not the end of the world. Like, every team has ups and downs. It's just tonight it feels like shit right now, and we played some bad basketball.
My man. Keep it 100.
So those 2, everything's fine. We'll work it out. We're going to be fine, too. We are the worst team in the world. We are so bad. I'm so upset. I want to cry. And those 2.
Zero fun.
Those 2 back-to-back killed me, It's
he tells it like it is.
He does.
I love that. Love that about it.
Feels like shit. I loved it. But I trust him. He's been honest. So that, no joke, when he's telling me not to worry, I'm like, all right, I buy it. It's not like the under your breath mumbling, we got to be better and this and that. And you hear a lot of those things, and that never makes me feel better, because I'm like, just do it. But he's like, look, we're here. We're okay. We'll figure it out. We're doing great. I'm still at 85%. We'll be fine, yada, yada. And then he was like, nah, they got him. The same way they got Noah. They got KP, and that worries me. When you break Noah and KP in the same night, that worried me a little.
When
and I was
things are bad.
I started worrying that things are broken. What I will say is, and it's not because I'm a merchant of chaos and I want to see things go, haywire, because, then we can, yell and scream and rant and, tell better stories.
Right.
No, again, Jimmy, I gave them the benefit of the doubt to the point that you got annoyed with me last year multiple times. And I really never felt worried at all. On the same token, I don't think that one little game here cures all. Like, you showed up and you had to. In front of your home crowd, you had to take it seriously and recognize people out there are wondering, do you give a because they're watching, right. They're spending money. People are joining us here on the Garden Report. This is their time. They're hanging out. They don't want to watch this miserable crap. You owed it to people to go out and take things a little seriously tonight. So I'm glad they did, but I'm not convinced they're just not going to, they're come back out tomorrow and do it again.
No, and that's the difference, right?
Now
John?
We're back to them having, before it was, I'll give them a few. They've earned it. They're killing people. You're not going to hold it for 82. Now, I actually need to see a long string of sustained success that shows me that, like, the other things are few and far between, but this is who we actually are. So fine. Step one, happy. But I do have to see more right now, because I am a little worried that other stuff's going to creep in, because the fact that they let it come in and dominate, and make them play as bad as they have for such a long period of time, it is problematic. Like it's like from a more like a pride and a self-respect and a playing for one another thing. That's what gets me the most is like you go out there, like watching Jaylen walking around last game, like
just
that's upsetting. Defense. Like who's gonna go out and try when one of your leaders is like that's such a weird look. That's what worried me the most is like how do you like is something wrong? You know, like, are you guys okay? Are you sad? Is something bothering you behind the scenes? Are you hurt? I couldn't figure it out. Tatum and Brown looked like they had no legs. They were walking around. It's weird to see your two best players like that. And like, it's jolting. And so like, it's hard to get that out of my head. I need to see a lot of good efforts like tonight where they're serious and they're trying and they're moving and they're engaged.
I'm hopeful that the media, the Celtics media staff and this coaching staff put together some clips from that game, John, because there were a lot of clips you could have cut to show the lack of effort, if you want to call it that, or energy, or the inability to like they weren't connected at all on the defensive side of things. If a guy left his man, there was nobody helping out. Toronto was. Their shots, their buckets at the basket were wide open. Just a lot of breakdowns defensively. So I have a feeling that some of those clips must have, or hopefully were shown to the team or to the players. And he says, listen, guys, like this isn't going to cut it. This is unacceptable. And like, we have no business playing this way against any team. You can't take any teams for granted in the NBA. It could be the worst team in the league. If you don't show up to play, you will get beat. The Celtics proved that earlier this week. And tonight, when they do show up and when they do, just play, we said it last year, just play okay basketball and you're going to win most of those games, right? I mean, and it's the same roster. Some of the guys are playing better. Some of the guys aren't playing as well as they were at this point last season. But if they go out there and just play B+ basketball, on most nights, they're going to win that game. And then they have to really show up for the big games, the OKCs, the Clevelands, the New York Knicks, and things of that nature. That's the ones you're really getting up for. But yeah, John, to your point, last year, sure, looking back on it, we had to kind of manufacture things to be concerned about. There was never even like a losing streak, right? This year, it does feel a little bit different. This year doesn't feel as hard to be at least concerned or to be doubtful about the way things are. Whereas last year, you really had to kind of search for it. That's the difference I have right now. And I think that's kind of what you were trying to say is like, yeah, it's good that they played the way they did tonight, but like, I'm not convinced that they'll do the same thing tomorrow night or, when they go out West in a few days, what version of this Celtics team is going to show up. You've got two different versions right now.
They've lost a little bit of our goodwill, of our trust, of our faith. And I gave it to them almost unconditionally through most of last year and a good chunk of the beginning of this year. And it really started to get to me there. So, again, let's see a few of them real quick. Take a quick pause. We're going to hear from Jaylen Brown. We'll get Bobby and Noah, but first, Prize Picks.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's NFL playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. You pick more or less on at least two players for a shot up to win 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks.
And we got NFL football coming up, of course, this Saturday and Sunday. So a lot of good action. If you haven't gotten in on it, check it out. You want to follow our guy, Mike Cadlick. He'll have his weekend picks and his weekend plays. So make sure you check that out. But again, you see it right here, that code CLNS, play 5, get 50 instantly on Prize Picks. You run your game and get after it. Prize Picks is a ton of fun. And this is a great
football.
Great weekend. And again, doesn't matter. Match
you nailed it last week, John.
I nailed last week.
You're not going to give us a little preview?
I kind of want to, but I got to dig a little bit deeper. And I should. But Maybe at the end of the show, I'll circle back. I'll let you know where I'm going with it. Anyway,
I'm tailing you now. So
okay, so here we go. Back to the game. Again, Celtics now 29-12, and they're back-to-backs tomorrow. Joe Mazzulla was asked whether or not whether Porzingis and Horford will play. We'll see about that. I would hate to think that they're going to rest them both, but then again, I could deal with about 35 minutes of Neemish Queta tomorrow. What about you guys?
We'll love it. And in Atlanta, they're beat up team too. No. I anticipate Al will play. I'd be shocked if he didn't at this point. But again, the thing about this game that I really, really, really hope that when they go back and look at the video, they want to build off of is just how not only were guys more focused on just their individual defensive assignments, but they did a much better job of rotating and making sure that when one of their teammates got beat, they didn't get toasted. They didn't get totally smoked. They did a good job rotating defensively, as good as we've seen them in a while. And that was one of the low-key reasons why they won this game so comfortably. And you would hope that would be one of those things that when Joe talks about the little things that they need to continue to work at and build on, you'd hope that will be one of those things that they point out and they think about and they try to carry that over into the Hawks game.
I'd like to see Porzingis play. I don't need to see Horford play. We already know, Horford is Horford.
It's with Porzingis, it's not about him playing. I want to keep him healthy. I'm thinking all about April, May, and June with Porzingis. I don't want to do
of course. I mean, sure. Well, then wrap him up and put him in bubble wrap then.
They've had a nice program for him that's been working, and I don't want to do anything to disrupt that.
No, I don't want to disrupt it, but I mean, I'd like to know if the guy can go, a little bit extra. Maybe, it's just part of the recovery. Sherrod, that's all I'm saying. I wouldn't mind. I don't need him to play 35 minutes, but get an extra body out there. Maybe give him 20 minutes just to see how it feels on a second night. But I would love to see
play back-to-backs in the playoffs. So why should we do what? No,
he's not. But he's just ramping it up a little bit. He's going to play more minutes in the playoffs.
Yep.
So,
but he won't be playing every day.
He won't be playing every day. He will not be playing every day.
Nah, he makes me nervous, Jimmy. I mean, I think everything has been great up to this point, and can you imagine? Jimmy, can you imagine the amount of head explosions if he played in a back-to-back and got hurt on the second night of that?
It would just be coincidence, though. It's not like he physically can't go back-to-back. That's not like a thing. But he's not Joel Embiid here.
Oh gosh,
I get why they're taking it slow, and I'm all for it. I'm just saying, hey, if he ended up being active tomorrow and played a little bit, I wouldn't be mad about that. I do want to see Queta though, so
yeah, I do too.
I'd be happy with Queta too, but to have them both sit, it's just like, again, it's hard to you're trying to get the starters reps. I don't know. I know that these games don't matter really, I guess, because we're 40 games away from the playoffs, but still would be nice to just get a little bit, I don't know, get a little bit more, especially after a good night that they all played together. So that's that. But sure, start Queta, give Luke 30 minutes, see if they can, match up with the Hawks here. The Hawks can, on any given night, though, even if they are unhealthy, they can.
Yeah, I mean, remember they beat them, in the, they beat them without, what's his name, Trae Young, earlier this year. So it's not like they can't win under man. So
sure. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that he played them both tonight. I don't know why he would play them both tonight if he's going to bench them both tomorrow. I mean, this doesn't seem like a good way to win the game tomorrow. Like if you're trying to win the game, there is still that aspect of it, Sherrod. You still want to win the game, don't you? John, you're muted.
I never know the thinking behind it, but I do wonder, if I were to guess, I don't think they worry game to game, unless it were two big games but I wonder whether it was we really just
need to win this game,
show up today. And I don't want to mess around and so let's just get today. We'll worry about tomorrow. We'll rest who we want to rest. What it's fair to say here, I mean, thankfully with the blowout, Porzingis, I think, only played 23 minutes, and so did Al. So 23 apiece, you guys mentioned. that's not a heavy load.
No.
So hopefully, one can come back and we'll see. Because, and again, if you're going to guess that maybe they were thinking of playing them both tomorrow or not resting them, you saw Keita playing for the first time in a bit, and both Keita and Cornet came in so they could really kind of spread those big minutes out. So I wonder if Porzingis does play. That being said, I kind of don't want him to play because he's playing so well. And I do think that, like, throughout all of this, that's probably the one thing that you're going to feel the best about. Like, when you look back at this stretch and try to pull away what mattered, chances are the losses won't have mattered, or the lax play or the bad defense or the shot selection or whatever. But what will matter is that Kristaps Porzingis, this is the stretch where Kristaps Porzingis became president, like where he finally started to look like himself again. Yeah. And any fear that you might have had that, like, oh crap, is he going to be like not great all year? I mean, again, we're talking about the thing I hated most about Porzingis' injury was that they kept saying, really, no one's ever had it. So we don't know how it's going to react. We think it'll be okay. I'm like, oh God. And so, like, you never know. Like, is it risk of re-injury? Is it going to be a thing that's going to blah, 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 blah? And every time he's like, he rolled an ankle like 14 times this year. Every time he goes down, you're like, that's it. It's over. And now he looks like himself again and we're happy, So I think that's good. Bobby looks so sad and lonely over there. Should we bring him in? Oh, look at this poor guy.
Oh, jeez.
What's going on?
Were you watching the game, or were you outside, like, what were
chopping
you
wood or something?
Were you like selling newspapers, like in 1950?
I love it.
Some similar, yeah.
Lumberjack Bobby.
I heard you guys talking Kristaps. Sounds like he might play tomorrow.
What are you basing that on? From what he said?
He just said it. Yeah. Said
He's
believes
such a liar.
so. But it's out of his hands. They might pull it away from him. I saw him with some ice on his right ankle doing the radio interview after the game, and felt like he came up a little lame on that breakout dunk, but we always think that on like 50 plays a game. So who knows? But
I didn't like that at all. Oh, I hated that.
Right.
I really didn't like that at all.
He's playing through stuff. I think that's part of it. He continues to grow more efficient by the game. I think he's 14 to 21 over his last two here. And so I do like him being able to stack up games here. I mean, there's a reason they played Alan Kristaps tonight. I asked Joe about it. He said they've done it before, and they have. So it was either the urgency of this game or they feel pretty good about Kristaps being able to go tomorrow. Right. And I'd have to think it's the second based on what he said.
Bobby, I gotta boot you 1 second. Sorry, buddy. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, Bobby. I made a mistake.
Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
All right, welcome to the Bobby Manning portion of the show. We run intros for everything here.
The Jimmy Toscano takeover continues.
You can't have the show without the intro, Bobby. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. That's all I asked for. Just the intro. Now proceed.
As you were saying.
Yeah.
Do I gotta repeat myself? Or how does this work?
Every fresh thought. We will we'll run the intro.
You don't have to
I love
start
what Kristaps is at. I think that's the most important thing from this game, guys. Al just gave him tons of praise. Tons of praise for his rim protection. He said he's been good, but tonight he was really, really good protecting the rim. I feel like they're trying to find their identity with him out there, and that's a big part of some of the inconsistencies we've seen from the starting lineup. So it just makes sense. They're trying to get as many minutes with those guys together as possible. You saw them go to some in the second half of this one. Who knows if they go to it tomorrow? I'm guessing they will. I think they should probably here. You only played 23 minutes tonight, right? So I think it makes sense. Just play those guys together as many minutes as you want. Get their rhythm together. They were at plus 15 in this game.
Yeah.
So progress. Now the Magic, they had nothing tonight once Paolo went down. And it was a pretty close game before that moment, and then their offense just crumbled for the rest of the game. So you didn't face a ton of resistance from this game, but you know that they're going to always play hard, that they're going to stay in the game. They shot great from 2 in the first half. So
look how depleted they were in the game that
tonight.
they beat them, right, Bobby? They just did that with defense. Yeah. That was,
Yeah, and no Tatum that night. They had more guys out in this one. They just looked more exhausted and forced to go to their back end of their bench in this one. So a little bit of a different dynamic. I'll be interested to see. I know the Hawks are pretty beat up too. I think Johnson's questionable. Young and Hunter should be able to go tomorrow. So I think you'll face a stronger opponent tomorrow with Noel inevitably. So I'm interested to see how that goes. This is a passable game, right, John? Nothing blew you away. Nothing said, whoa, here they go. You just got back on track. And now what are you doing tomorrow? That's what everyone's going to look toward.
Yeah. So, Bobby, to catch you up on some of it, what we kind of talked about, generally speaking, is they had to come out and show you something. So because we were starting to think that they're not serious because, the Toronto was a not serious effort at all. Insulting, like legit insulting. If you're a Celtics fan, you pay money to watch this team. They come out and they looked anything like that tonight. This would have been a bloodbath. And so they at least understood we got to do better. So they tried, more. There was definitely more energy. And again, going back to Joe's, a much better start to the third. And that was another, thing there where that was really important as well. Going back to Joe's, untrained eye comment about the effort. I'm sorry. The easiest thing in the world to be able to see his effort, and anybody can see it regardless of how much basketball you've coached or played. And some of these games literally have just been inconsistent effort, standing around, trying to take shortcuts and do it the easy way. It just doesn't work that way. You can get blown out by a team like the friggin' Raptors or the Kings if that happens. And so you can't do it. It's like disrespectful to the game and to the people who pay to watch you. And so they took it at least seriously. But again, it's so easy to be like, was it just because the shots fell and then they felt good about themselves and that allowed them to have effort? What if they were cold in the first quarter? And
here's the difference though tonight.
Would they have dipped back down? I don't think so because I thought their shots were more earned.
Yeah, and they didn't take as many. It's not like they threw up 50 and hit a ton of 37 them tonight. They took 35, 37. Yeah. So they earned more inside. I do think they got to the line 22 times. Yeah. And Porzingis' post usage to start this game and really the last handful of games with him gives them a nice new element. I know they're looking to see more of that from him, get him involved more. The efficiency is as good as last year for the most part. They're just not using him a ton, and they're not pressuring teams with that. So I thought that was something they looked to do more concertedly in this game. And I want to see it going forward. I think as we start to highlight the differences of the team this year, he's going to be more important. I don't think they're going to be able to do it without him. I don't think that he can just be a passenger on this. I think he has to be a central piece, maybe even their third piece, given the way Derek's struggling at points this year and Holiday slowing down a little bit, bench issues, all that. Like they probably need a big three scoring threat each night. And that was the formula tonight. White, I like getting him back on track early in this game. Still not 100% of himself, but going in the right direction here. This was Tatum. This was Brown. Much more engaged game from Brown, and Porzingis being outstanding.
Yeah, and the other things we hit on again. Good game from the starters. You needed that, for sure. And then Joe messed around with the rotations a little bit. Not only inserting Keita, and we hadn't, he'd been just kind of on ice for a while, but also that third quarter shakeup where Jalen stayed in and Tatum went to the bench, and that was Brown's best quarter of the game. 13 points in that quarter, got to the line 8 times.
13 in a row.
Yeah, and so that was something, and that was different. So again, that was kind of one of the things we asked is like, is Joe gonna just wait for the math to work itself out, or is he going to start to tinker a little bit? Because you think you're the Celtics, right? You're playing from a position of strength. We're the friggin' Boston Celtics. We're the defending NBA champs. We had a historically good and historically efficient offensive season last year. Do I have to change, or do I just wait for the law of averages to play out? It's actually a fair question. Impatient fans are going to scream for change, but it wouldn't have been crazy if Joe's like, we're just going to be okay. Like, we're just keep doing what we're doing, and that's fine. Or maybe I shouldn't do the same exact rotations, the same thing I'm doing. And maybe I should try different combinations and mix things up a little bit and see whether I can get more out of people. I'm glad he did a little bit tonight because, we're out of Coach GPT mode of like, you do it this way, shoot the threes, Tatum plays the first, and then stay with it. He tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah, they're showing a little flexibility. It's still mostly the same stuff. In fact, he got asked up in Toronto, are you trying to add some new stuff this year? And maybe he was just deflecting the question, but he said, no, not really. And I think that's true from what we've watched, right?
Yeah, he doesn't. They don't do a lot.
Yeah, not a ton of new layers to the defense. I think the ball pressure was better in this game, and there was some more concerted energy on that end. They went zone for a little bit, and it looked okay. It didn't do a great job, I think, to open the second there. So adding some layers on that end, adding some layers to the offense. Again, I think more post-ups is necessary. I think some more inside activity, maybe a little cutting too, just some more set plays, I think, would all help the offense a little bit. But they're still mostly just attacking mismatches, making reads, doing the same stuff we saw last year. The threes have come down this month, though, and I don't know how you feel about that, John. I think everyone looks at it usually and is like, oh, good, they're going, they're attacking, finally they're not launching. I think they actually want to be higher with the threes, maybe not 50, but I think they're down like 42, 43 a game this month. And that's low for them this year. I know everybody's going up around the league, so that's probably where they were at last year. But I think you want to be mid-40s, high 40s with them. And if you're rolling and getting great looks, you can shoot past 50, I guess. I don't think the fact that they've gone down with 3-point attempts this month has meant, they're getting great looks inside. I think they're taking some bad looks inside, actually. So that was low again tonight. Al talked about that.
Well, the shot, like 42% from 2 last game or something? What do you guys think offensively, Sherrod, Jimmy, like about the approach? Are you like, pound it inside, attack, or you think that the 3-point volume is still super? And Bobby, I think 42 and 43 is more than enough threes. I don't think you're off your game in the low 40s. I really don't. If you're taking the right ones. But what do you guys think, Jimmy, Sherrod?
Well, I think that the big thing with the Celtics is that this is just part of their DNA to take a lot of threes. So that's never going to change. It's certainly not anytime soon. Well, what I want to see them do more of, and I thought they did that in this game, was rather than take what the defense is giving you, take what you can get take what you own from that defense. If you know that you can dribble, drive, penetrate, and finish at the rim, dribble, drive, penetrate, and finish at the rim. I thought they just didn't just allow themselves to just embrace the fact that they can shoot these threes. They actually took good shots. And I think by doing that, being a little more aggressive and assertive, you're going to see the 3-point shots go down a little bit, but it's never going to go away. I think, to me, the sweet spot is low to mid 40s from 3-point attempts. That's where I think they're going to be at their best, because that means that they're probably looking to attack a little bit more, which keeps the defense a little bit off of balance, which is what they want.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're a 3-point shooting team. That's not going to change. Nobody's saying pounding it down low, but what I would like to see is just more transition. Which means better
more
defense.
Speed,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you can get out and transition and score in the fast break, then that's going to be less threes in the half-court offense that you're going to be taking. So, I think that's maybe how you see less of it, John. But I'm still expecting this team. I mean, when they're drawing up plays, they're trying to get guys open for threes. So.
You'd have to go back and look here. I always feel, at least, I feel that it's 50-50 when they just come out shooting threes. If they're not falling, they're like, oh shit, what do we do? I always feel like starting aggressively early by attacking. I prefer that before you start going bombs away, because also there's just something about asserting your will, and just getting after people. And I like to see them do that. And I think they did that a little bit. Tonight, and certainly through, for stretches of time where they were just, aggressive. And I think you're getting to the line, you make people play defense, more when you're doing that. So I like to see it, but I agree. They're a 3-point shooting team, and that's where they got to go. We're going to talk more about tonight's game. We're going to look a little bit ahead to Atlanta, and we're going to talk with Noa about whether she's all right after the Toronto loss because I was worried. Never seen Noah that hysterical before. So we're gonna get that as well.
I think she called players only meeting.
Yeah, she might have. Guys, you should have seen Noah behind the scenes. Guys, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah,
crazy. Anyway, we're gonna hear from Game Time real quick.
This episode is also powered by Game Time, the best place to get tickets to the games, events, and concerts you want to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Game Time is filled with terrific features like all-in pricing, so you know exactly how much you're paying. No surprise fees at checkout. You also get panoramic views from your seats in the app, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at before you buy. Plus a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. What time is it? It's game time.
We're checking it out here. If you did want to get to that Atlanta game tomorrow, it's a weekend. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but Game Time, if you want to sneak in there, Game Time does have some decent deals. And again, one of the cool things about Game Time is that the price goes down oftentimes the closer you get to tip off or to the start of your show or whatever it is. So again, download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off. Once again, terms to apply. And again, let me look at this a little bit more closely. Yeah, there's some decent seats here you can get in there for sure if you want to go check it out. And why not? Celtics really the only game in town right now.
John, I got my eyes on a different game tomorrow.
What do you got?
Cooper Flag comes to Boston tomorrow.
That is also
Duke
cool.
Versus Boston College.
Yeah, that's cool too.
Cooper Flag right now it's $212 though at the old at Boston College to get into that game, which is not a cheap price for to watch the Eagles. But again, you get Duke, you get Cooper Flag, you get to see him before he becomes the first overall pick. Kind of a cool game.
Yeah, that is kind of a cool game. And that is a fun ticket. And I'm looking at it now, and yeah, that's about as much as you're gonna see to get into a BC game.
Ever to go to a BC game. Honestly.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, unless things wildly change for them someday and they're actually a good team and they're like, even then though, I don't see it. Like,
it's fun. I like to get to a BC game. I'd like to get to at least one BC game every year, but yeah, that's cool. So Cooper Flag, that would be good. You know that Scal discovered him, right? Like it's the same way that like Nolte went down to the Bayou to find Shaq, Luke Boudreau.
Scal that's he's like
Leon Boudreau.
Scal getting a cut of his contract.
Yeah,
or something?
Scal without Scal. Oh my God, nobody would know about Cooper Flag. Anyway, that's it for us.
Seriously. Yeah, but talking to Coop, just got off the phone with Coop.
There's this guy for Duke. I don't know if you know him.
Anyway. We think Duke's a good place for him to be. Yeah, we like his role at Duke.
Yeah. Anyway, we are going to hear from Kristaps Porzingis on tonight's game. And again, sad Kristaps made me sad the other night. But he himself has been terrific the last few games. And the one bright spot, even though the Celtics have not been playing well for a while, he was good again tonight. Here's Porzingis on tonight's game.
About that Toronto game, it felt like that one really, just the energy of it bothered you. And how did you guys respond to that? What kind of things did you do?
Yeah, I think just it was an uncharacteristic game for us. Uncharacteristic bad game for us. Like no energy. Like at one point I was like, man, we're really gonna lose. Like I started, it was just one of those type of performances, and we rarely had those, but I felt like that one was kind of unacceptable from us. We can miss shots, we can do, but we had to have like more like personality, and that's what I felt. But today we looked like a completely different animal. No, for me it's just like, okay, like we're supposed to do this. Like here we go. Like this is what is expected from us, And when we don't perform at that level, it's not the same. So for me, it's not like a big relief because tomorrow we have another one, and we have to again perform at that level. So Yeah, that's the cool thing. Also, when you have those patches of not playing good basketball, you can have the next game is in 2 days or next day, and you have another chance, to bring it back. And now it's just for us, as I said, just keep building on top of this win.
Yeah, happy Porzingis.
KP.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Makes us feel better.
We are going to get Bobby and Noah on momentarily to hear a little bit more from them about the game. I believe we are going to get them. I think they're good. You guys good?
I think they're good.
I think they're good. What happened to Jalen? Did he never show?
Nah, it doesn't work. I don't have the layout, guys.
What do you mean?
I don't have the layout. Can't get them.
Thanks anyways, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Jimmy's such a...
No.
Yeah, that's the one you want. That's the one you want.
It's not the one I want.
Trust me.
Bless you, Noah.
No, we'll get to you guys in a second. I don't have it right now. I don't have it.
Done it before.
Yeah, I know.
What if we just go? What if you just go quad box then until you figure it out?
Nah, it's not going to work. Someone's going to throw it in there, and we'll get to them in a minute.
Oh.
Yeah, it disappeared. We'll get to Bobby.
Shot. You can't do 4-shot?
I can leave.
No, you can't do 4-shot? Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh, boy.
Welcome to the show.
Definitely not that shot. There we go.
All right.
That's good.
We're on. John has sacrificed himself until he can get the
He left the show.
Until he can get the correct shot, he has sacrificed himself for the greater good, might I add. No one's going to miss him.
Because me and Jimmy Jamster weren't leaving, so.
No, we aren't going. We ain't leaving. We ain't leaving. But, Noah, we wanted to get your take off the top after a bit of an unraveling out of you earlier this week after that Celtics performance. People are wondering.
Okay, I feel like this was a little over. I feel like it was a little overrated, this unraveling.
People are wondering if you're back on the bandwagon or if you're still fully off of it after Wednesday's game.
I was never fully off or on any bandwagon. I think last game was the worst loss of the season. I also think just things look worse on TV than when you're in the building, so that it might have been that.
I don't think it was that.
I think it was a little bit that.
I think it was the game.
Okay, fine. Well, it was a bad loss. But I also said multiple times
Noah, I'm
that
sorry.
it was just...
Noah, sorry. Hold on one second. Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
All right. Welcome to the show. Celtics with a nice comeback.
I know.
A nice bounce back win. Noah and Bobby are live. Noah, thoughts on this one?
Why did you just play the intro?
Because this is the Jimmy Toscano takeover portion of the program.
John started.
Okay, I mean, I thought. Okay. I thought this was a great bounce back win. I know we're going to analyze it all through the lens of like the recent skid, but I think they just really needed to see the ball go through the basket, and that's what happened today. And obviously, you know, other things were great from the beginning. I think their defensive intensity was better, but the biggest difference was that they just made their shots. And I think that it's really hard to play game after game when everybody's in a shooting slump, but tonight they weren't. And that was probably the biggest difference. Jamal Mosley talked about it pregame on his end, like the Magic just had a bad loss to the Bucks, and he was saying, you know, it's really hard to continue doing the things that have made us like a really good defensive team and a really hard playing team when nothing's going your way effectively. And I feel like that's kind of been the Celtics' most recent stretch. And tonight they found a rhythm, and the offense was the biggest difference to me. Obviously the defensive intensity was better, but just the kinds of shots they were getting, the kinds of shots they were making. I love Tatum's second quarter. I thought it was awesome. The way that he was kind of finding his spots, layups, mid-ranges. But ultimately, like if they're going to shoot 46% from three, they're going to look like this a lot more often. And so that was kind of my biggest takeaway. They were due for one of these nights, and it came happen.
Yeah, and Jalen great too in this one. It is weird.
Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
I'm in. I'm back.
What is this?
John's back.
Welcome back, John, to the show. Celtics with a 121-94 win.
This is terrible production, Jimmy. This is terrible.
Whoa, I had nothing to do with that. John's back. The whole gang's here, guys. We're all just
Everyone gets an intro. All you got to do is ask for it. If you want an intro, you can have an intro.
You get an intro.
You get an intro. And that's it. All right, nothing but serious. It's nothing but serious basketball talk from the basketball reporters.
Now
you guys go. We've upset them. All right, go. You get the whole thing. Go.
Yeah.
The whole screen.
He's about to go off.
Get the whole screen.
I just find the Jaylen thing interesting still. So much better tonight. So much more engaged. Defensively, there were some great plays in that first half too.
We lost Noah. We
got her. Lost it. Keep going, Bobby. You're right about Jaylen. You're right.
Go ahead, Bobby. Power through.
We don't hear from him after this one. I didn't get that.
Wait, Jaylen? I thought he was coming to the podium.
No. That's why I'm here.
We heard from Al instead, who was fine. But this was a Tatum Brown Porzingis game. We only heard from Tatum and Porzingis.
He's mad.
Is there something
he's mad at
behind
Dakota.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. He's mad at Dakota from Braintree.
That report, that fake report. Yeah.
They're thinking about trading him.
Yeah, to like save money so that the new owners don't have to spend money on the tax, right?
Yeah.
He said in his walk-off interview with Abby that he's being more of a playmaker this year and that he's just going to have to adjust.
Tonight?
He did the walk-off on NBC Sports Boston.
Yeah.
I think that was his the only thing we're going to hear from him.
I love it. I love the tactical Jaylen. Like, pay attention to this aspect of what I'm doing. Last year it was defense. This year it's playmaking. But I will say, even through a shooting slump, absolutely his passing has been better. This year, and you see an uptick. And if you look at his stats from the month of January, the only thing that's gone markedly up is actually the assists. While he's been struggling, I think shooting around 30% from three, so far there. So that's fine.
He had a great pass early in this game too to get White going. Not that White had the best game ever, but it got him a three early, and he ended up having a decent game off of it. So it was a good Jaylen game.
It was, yeah. I will say, I love him. I love when defense is this thing. I don't know that I would want him to be a primary playmaker on this team. Like, his thing is his scoring.
Nope, so definitely not.
No.
What?
I agree with you. I don't want him as the primary playmaker. It should just be part of his repertoire. Sure.
He's not a natural playmaker. That much we know.
Right.
That much we definitely know. He just needs to. Again, a couple years ago, we were trying to make Tatum be somebody he was, and we're trying to make Brown. These guys just need to be who they are. And Brown is an elite scorer at all levels of the court, right? And he just needs to get back to that. The outside shot, he's not even, never mind making it, Bobby. He's not even taking it. He's not even taking it.
Yeah, what, 2 tonight?
And that's fine.
I think he had one a game ago. Like,
I think the lack of three-point shooting is fine.
I disagree with that, actually. But go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's at his best when he's attacking the basket and when his mid-range is falling, and that's the biggest thing. I don't think that he's been the same transition player this season, and I don't think that he's been hitting the mid-range. I mean, he hasn't been hitting the mid-range at the same efficiency, and the three-point shooting's down, but that's not integral to his game. Like, he has those nights where he's hot from three, and those nights are awesome. But last season, he was one of the NBA's top transition players, and he just hasn't been that this year. And I don't know if it's an injury thing. I don't know if it's something about the way the team is playing, if it's his mindset, but the things that make him really special, he should still be doing on this team, regardless of what's happening around.
The three can't disappear, though. And we were discussing that before you came on, whether we're okay with them dipping down to the 40 range with 3-point attempts. And that's him. Right, 2 tonight. What do you have? 1 on Wednesday in that Raptors game. And again, I don't think it's because he's replacing those with awesome post-ups or these great looks. I do think he's pressing. I do think he's forcing some stuff, and that's why the efficiency has dipped this year. And he hit tough shots last year. That was obviously going to come back down to earth a little bit. But he needs to take threes. I think that's who they are. I think he needs to hit them. And maybe if he can't hit them, that's a different story. But he is a guy who should be 34, 35, 36. Not like he's going to shoot up to 40. But I think if he's going to abandon that shot, it's transitioning into worse shots in my mind. I don't know how you guys feel.
He's great at them. That's the thing is, like, Jaylen Brown at his best
is he this year?
No, but that's the thing is, like, his natural, like, state of being is a great bad shot shooter. You know, like Jaylen Brown defied all analytics by bringing back, you know, the contested mid-range because that he's great. And like, I actually, to the point where like you want him to take those shots because that is his bag. And that's what's natural for him. I mean, the worst Jaylen was to sit in the corner and wait for the, you know, disappear for an entire quarter, you know, just waiting to catch and shoot when he wasn't necessarily even particularly good at that. Him going in there, feeling the defense, doing his thing, getting that turnaround, shooting that contested mid-range or taking it all the way to the basket. That's when he's kind of in his element. So I mean, I want him to take those shots because he's proven that's the one thing he's actually again, it's just not falling this year, but that's the one thing he's been consistently good at. And when he does that, it's just, it makes him just really, really difficult to stop because you can play good defense and it doesn't matter. He just rises up and he hits that thing. So I don't mind when he gets into this bag that way. I don't necessarily think it's a worse shot profile.
Right.
But for him, it makes sense.
He's the one guy that has a clear better shot than a 3-point shot on this team. I mean, maybe there's a couple others, but for the most part, he last year too, he was the worst 3-point shooter of the rotation players minus Luke.
Right.
So I don't hate him dipping. I don't think that him dipping means that the Celtics need to be taking way fewer, and they have been. And that's a much bigger conversation than Jaylen's shot profile. I want to see Sam Hauser starting to get up 9 threes a game again. Like, we're not seeing him getting that volume, right? Like, Derek, Drew, let's get Drew open in the corner. Like, those are the shots that were their, you know, bread and butter last year. It wasn't Jaylen's threes.
They're discombobulated in that starting lineup. It's tough to tell why. It's like, all right, is Tatum going to take over? Is Brown going to be running sets? So he's out of the game 5-6 minutes in and never got going. It's just all over the place. And it's so weird because last year it was seamless. And there's no good explanation behind it. And everyone keeps getting asked, and they're just like, I don't know. So
why the starting five is struggling?
Yeah, well, we know why they're struggling because guys just
who's shooting rhythm behind you?
Some of the ball boys, I think.
Oh, okay.
But
one of those just shot looked really funky. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't lay a finger on what's going on there, and it's obviously the shooting. Like, they're giving up great shooting prior to tonight. They're not shooting well going into this game, but everybody's involved, right? Tatum's rolling, but can't take over night tonight because they want to get everybody involved. Holiday, the threes down this year. White's struggling, and that continued for the most part tonight. So it's just about getting guys shots where they need to get them, and it doesn't feel like they know exactly where that is for almost everyone in that lineup.
I feel like tonight, though, they had the right formula. Like, Porzingis was the guy in the first quarter. He had 11 points. Second quarter, it's Tatum. He has 15. Third quarter, it's Jaylen. He has 13. Every quarter, there was a different one of those guys that kind of was the primary scoring option. And I feel like
that's the difference.
That's what made them special last year was the fact that you couldn't game plan to be like, well, I'm going to take this guy out because this guy's going to go for 30. And Porzingis being back and being himself the way that he really has been these last few games gives them that real flexibility.
Well, Porzingis is a bigger part of the offense, I feel like, this year than he was last year. And that has to be the case. I just don't know how it affects everybody else because it's going to be more shots inside. It's going to be the ball in his hands more often. I like it. It's just different.
You think he's a bigger part of the offense than last year?
So far from what I'm seeing, yeah. And maybe that's just the way the limited games we've watched have gone. But I think that's what they want. And obviously he was just in and out, especially in the playoffs last year. So they played the last time we watched this team be great in the playoffs, it came without him. And now he's in there. Now he's playing big minutes. Now he's part of everything. And it is a bit like a reset.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it didn't feel like they were forcing the issue last year is because in the first half of the season, he was putting together like one of the most historic efficiency seasons
especially
from the post.
With the threes.
Yeah, and I mean, he was the top post-up player in the NBA from an efficiency standpoint. So I think there was an element of like, it was just feeling like a release valve. He was just bailing them out. So many games he bailed them out down the stretch because they would just pass it to him. He'd get fouled and he hit his free throws. And I think now he had to kind of work his way back into being in a good rhythm. And he struggled offensively. Like even the other night, he was 7 of 19 from the field. Like he was, I feel like every game last year, he was shooting 70% in the beginning of the year. So there's that piece too, whereas when he's struggling, all of a sudden it's no longer this like cheat code.
All right. Nap time, guys.
We do this more.
We're gonna dip in nap time here. We're gonna dip into Tatum for a couple of minutes.
See some shots fall and to just play with this kind of energy.
Excuse me. I mean, yeah, it definitely felt good to hit some shots. But
I just like how physical we were from the beginning. Starters haven't necessarily started the game as well as we would have liked recently, but I think tonight we matched their intensity from the beginning, and the guys that came off the bench did an excellent job of pushing it forward.
And again, you guys do kind of pride yourself on your ability to, hey, we lost, we'll take what we can from it, we'll move on. But was there anything extra after that loss in Toronto where it's like, okay, maybe there's a realization that whatever has been happening, maybe it went a step too far and you had to like rein it in?
No, we didn't like overreact. We didn't play well in Toronto, and in all areas of the game, we deserved to lose. But this was a good opportunity against a physical team that plays really hard, a team that we lost to a couple weeks ago or whatever it was. So it was just a good opportunity for us to respond, and obviously we got another game tomorrow.
Jayson, you mentioned you guys hadn't been playing the way you wanted to as a starting group. You guys were a plus 15 tonight. Does that make you guys feel any kind of sense of relief?
Results can vary, plus minus and things like that, but I think just how connected we were on both ends of the floor, especially on defense. Everybody was on the same page. We were connected, helping each other out. So, regardless of the plus minus or the result of the game, I think just the way we went about it was a lot better today.
Jayson, you mentioned that defensive connectivity a little bit. I felt like you guys were a bit more locked in is not the right word, but energized maybe on the defensive end in this game than the Raptors game. Was that something you guys talked about? Did you feel the noticeable difference? Was that something like that you made a point to do in this game?
It wasn't where it needed to be last game. So we responded. We bounced back. It's kind of as simple as that.
Then Joe's talked about in the past how you guys have the same group of guys here this year, but you still need to reestablish those habits. You need to reestablish the chemistry, stuff like that. How do you feel like that's been going as obviously get KP back in the lineups, sort of get healthy here? How do you think you guys have been sort of re-gelling this?
I think we're in a good spot. We've had to play most of our season, with different guys in the lineup.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. I made the guys add that.
Kind of like
trying to use it.
Start of the season right now, just
that was good.
In a unique way, having everybody healthy and just trying to build off that.
You mentioned the connectivity earlier of the starting five. Why do you feel at times this year
he's
that
actually fairly amped
come
tonight.
and gone and waned
honestly,
during certain periods? Is there anything you could point to as to is it just the nature of the season? Is it
it's
you guys
sad,
feel like
true.
you turn it on when you need to? Like why is it kind of waned at times?
I don't know the exact answer. Part of it may be that, we haven't had our full roster for a good chunk of the season. So on given nights, we were just playing with different guys and trying to figure it out on the whim. But also not trying to make any excuses that there's a lot of teams in the league that deal with injuries, and you still got to go out there and compete and figure out ways to win. So, there's not just one thing or one reason why we've struggled somewhat, but we're gonna figure it out.
Jayson, you caught Paolo Banchero one-on-one.
All right, we're back.
All right. That wasn't gonna. Hey, fire it up! Tatum's fired up after that win.
He was.
Little pep in that voice.
He was. It is fun. Again, you don't talk about Jayson Tatum when he has a 30-point game, but again, Tatum was assertive tonight. And again, I guess Bobby's going to do the computations on his usage rate here, but Bobby's been onto something here. It's like Jayson Tatum, this isn't a news flash. Jayson Tatum is important. Jayson Tatum having the ball is important. Jayson Tatum doing Jayson Tatum things is important. And so you really do want things to flow through him, and that's what it is. So yeah, again, I wouldn't say ho-hum. I thought he was great. Tatum was the most, Brown was the most egregious offender last game. in terms of the overall effort, but Tatum was dead ass also, and then just not getting up, not really asserting himself on offense.
He didn't even shoot or score.
Yeah, he just didn't do anything. He just didn't do anything. You can't have that. He's got to be locked. He's got to be bringing it. He's got to be, in and around 30 points. That's what you pay him for.
But it's also, the points aside, it's just his effect on the game. It's not just the points. Obviously, it's the assists that have been creeping up, his playmaking.
They need to let him take over, Jimmy.
What's that?
They need to let him take over.
Right.
The lullaby is too far.
The usage.
When the usage goes up, they win. When the usage goes down, they lose.
I'm going to let Bobby jump in on the usage thing. I'm remiss once again. I just keep spacing on a couple of hellos I wanted to send out there. One, Mike Cornish from Dorchester. He's over at the Y running the basketball courts at the Newton Y. Big fan of the show. Has been watching us for a long time. Loved the Sacramento show when following a loss there. He thought they got some deserved heat from us. And he's awesome. He's there all the time. And I haven't gotten a chance to give a shout out. Also, Aaron from Acton, who I ran into at MSG around New Year's. At Madison
Should we
Square
intro
Garden.
these guys too?
Huh? I'd love to intro these guys. Aaron from Acton. Now he lives in Denver, watches a show out in Denver. Wanted to say hi to Aaron. He recognized me and said, hey. And I said, all right, man, we'll try to give you a shout out. And I'm pretty late on it, but yeah.
Aaron and Mike. And you said, all right, man.
Aaron and Mike watching the show. Wanted to say, hey guys, and thanks for watching. Yeah, Bobby, get into your usage, baby. This is your victory lap.
Shout out to the guy at Wilmington Target last week who I had a convo about. He's a big fan of the Garden Report too.
Nice.
I didn't get his name, but shout out Target. Electronics section.
All of these guys deserve an intro, right?
They do.
Yeah.
I get Joe's issue with the stat, right? It's points, it's assists, it's free throws. Like, obviously, if they have a lot of that stuff, they're going to win. And if they don't, they're going to lose. I just find it interesting that it's so starkly split along the Tatum lines. If he's super involved, they're going to win. If he's not, they're going to lose. It's like 6-6 now when he's below 30% usage. It's like 12-3 when he's above 30% after tonight, because I'm guessing he was above 30.
Do you even know what usage rate is, Bobby?
Yes, and I
know you know, and I know you answered
it
it under pressure, and most people would not have been able to, by the way.
But the premise is, and I think they even agree with it.
The premise is Tatum good. Get ball in Tatum's hands.
Right.
John, he had 0 shots in the fourth the other night. That should never happen.
Yeah. That was
never.
Crazy. Yeah.
Not that you're going to make him Harden or
Mike
Jokic.
My guy.
But I think he needs to be close to that. John, when you look at it, the top usage guys in the league are like Jokic, Shea, Giannis, all the guys in the MVP race above him.
Yeah.
And he's there, but just a little bit below. So I think you tick him up to right south of those guys, right? Because you got to keep Jalen involved and everybody else involved. I get that. But when you're talking about it's a different year and we're not the same and that's why we're struggling this year, I think you also have to make them accountable to change some things. Because you can't just say, oh, different year, that's why we're struggling, but also be like, oh, we got to do all the same stuff. Like, I think proactively involving Tatum, calling plays for him, keeping the ball in his hands, I think that's all going to be important for them this year because he's the only guy on the team playing much better than he did last year.
I mean, I'm down for it. I like the idea of Tatum. He's been great in isolation. His decision making has been great. I do think he's improved. I said it. I think this has been the best season individually of his career. I still don't think that stat perfectly captures what it is you're talking about because I think that there are a lot of games that the reason that his usage rate is higher is because they're blowing out an opposing team and he can kind of do his thing, or they're playing teams that have less good defenses. Sometimes not tonight, but there have been games where it's like he's going off because they're not playing the same level of defense. They're not doubling him. They're not forcing the ball out of his hand. So I think to really be able to run with that stat, like we need to go through game by game and see like what came first. But Jalen's been struggling, so it's going to benefit. Like Tatum's been more efficient this season, right? I think Jalen was actually more efficient for most of last season and definitely in the playoffs. So there's a question of like, are you just going to lean into the idea that Jalen's not going to be able to find a rhythm again too? I think he should be able to come back around and be more efficient than he has been.
Yeah, I could see it, especially because he's been
dipping so low through the first half here.
Yeah.
You do have to do both, right? Prioritize Tatum, find a way to get Brown going. And it's that challenge we've talked about, John, ever since these two started taking over the reins on this team, is that you're trying to stagger their minutes, you're trying to stagger their ball time, you're trying to keep them both involved. And we are back a little bit to one guy has it going because he's super involved and has the ball a ton, and the other guy is just standing around for the most part.
It's always been the same problem, though. It's always been the same problem.
It's a challenge because they can't really play off each other directly.
They don't play off each other directly, but when the entire team is connected, they'll all be playing well. The problem is when you have a Jay-centric...
That's why you got to play up tempo, to Jimmy's point, because there'll just be more possessions, more pie for everybody to...
If you have a Jay-centric offense, Brown can't do what Tatum does with the rest of the supporting cast. It's just not who he is. He's not that same guy. So when you see those dips, then you're going to start to say, like, well, the Jalen lineups suck. But, like, the offense can't just run through Jalen where he's the primary distributor and doing everything the same way that it can through Tatum. He's miscast in that role. It was better last year, but I think, again, with the supporting cast not playing as well around him, that's why I think why those minutes have suffered. I mean, the starters have just been kind of all a little bit reduced this year. So, it is what it is there. I think it's just really all of them upping their level a little bit, and then just works itself out. Noah said it earlier. Then it's not incumbent on one person to be carrying the load. Anybody can be the guy who's getting hot or who's carrying the offense at a particular time, and that includes White, that includes Porzingis, that includes Brown, of course, includes Tatum. I want to ask you guys real quick. We talked about this earlier. We're talking about a 15-game stretch where it's been not great, even in the wins. And a lot of the losses have been pretty bad. Is one game enough to make you think, like, okay, they figured it out, let's put all of that behind us? Or are you still worried that the Toronto, New Orleans ugliness rears its head tomorrow even? I mean, how do you feel like they've got it? Or this was let's show up tonight and prove that we can still try, but we could see this, come back again and come back soon?
I mean, I think this was a big win. This is a really good Orlando Magic team that even when they've had nobody, they've been really good. And they had Paolo today. They had guys back in the lineup. But it's just one game. And I don't think we should ever look at anything. Like, my rule of thumb when we're talking about this team is that every game is just one game, ultimately, like on both ends. And if we can see them come back and do it again tomorrow, that's a much bigger deal to me than doing it once. Doing it twice against two good Eastern Conference teams that have given them trouble this season, like, that would be a better feeling. But I saw flashes today that I feel like I haven't seen in weeks. Maybe it just feels that way because we've been dissecting a couple of these losses, but it really did feel like there was a sense of freedom and joy in how they were playing that I haven't seen in weeks. And if they can keep that up, then I do feel kind of ready to say that this meant a little bit more than just one game.
I don't have enough confidence in the defense yet. You got to stack those games together. You got to stack the consistency on that end together. And they obviously tried much harder in this game, and I think that led to better results. I've been asking for a game like this where you just go up against this team that's obviously shorthanded and struggles offensively and just completely restrict them from scoring. And in this game, you got the shooting too, so it ended up being a blowout in the end. But I'd like to see them be able to shoot poorly in a game, pretty much strangle the other team defensively, and pull out a rock fight win. I feel like they did that against Houston a few weeks ago. I liked what they did in Minnesota.
The Minnesota game where they didn't shoot well.
Bring those together. Yeah, the defensive intensity was better tonight, but I didn't love the execution. There were plays where they're doubling, one pass away, and Anthony's getting a three. The defensive rebounding wasn't great in the first half here.
And they sent them to the line.
I think, and that too. And then when Paolo went down, you all of a sudden had a free pass to win this game and extend your lead and make it uncompetitive late in the third there. The Magic didn't have enough to convince you that this is the Celtics.
I mean, they're down 4 of their top 5 scorers, so you're asking Banchero to carry a massive load when he's out there.
He's on a minutes restriction
on his own,
and
then So here's Al Horford from the locker room talking about kind of the recent malaise and tonight's game.
What you guys have been through in your time here.
I don't know exactly, but I do know that, we've experienced some moments like this as well. I just think that, obviously the difference this year is, we won the title last year. And, I think, everything was so smooth last year that this year it's, we're having some downs. And I feel like, people are worried about it. And, it's one of those things that we just kind of dive in on the work, the things that we do, and I feel like all of this, will make our team stronger. Every year you kind of start new, and you have to learn how to win and learn how things are going and work things out. And that's the regular season's kind of for that. And when I say learn how to win, it's just you have to play different ways at different times. The game continues to change, and teams are playing us different. There's a lot of factors. So I do think that. For us, now that we're finally healthy and, we're able to have, KP out there and we're all getting reps together, I feel like the more and more that happens, the better we're going to be.
That's the most sane reaction in terms of like, we haven't played enough together and we're still working our way through some stuff. Porzingis with his health, and each starter has been out at various times with various ailments, White, Holiday, and Brown. So, and then, Hauser off the bench as well. So the easiest thing to say is, they haven't really gotten together, which is why the starters maybe, aren't in rhythm yet, with kind of like maybe a splash of, boredom mixed in as well. And just sometimes with the natural letdown and the championship hangover. That's the best case scenario, right? The worst case scenario is actual regression, or teams are figuring them out a little bit. That would be worse than effort. If it's just effort, and not really, being in rhythm with each other yet, there's really not a lot to worry about in terms of them. Then you really only look around the rest of the league and say, well, there's a couple teams out there playing insanely good basketball right now. That's a problem, but we're not a problem. They got to take care of themselves first. And so if what Al said is true, that's great. Then they're fine.
I think it's true about the starters. We know the starters aren't that bad. We know that group is a plus, and they've been a big negative. So that's going to turn around, and that's going to solve many of their problems. But I do think there's an element of the league figuring them out. I do think there's an element of boredom, and I do think there's an element of them having down years individually that are real. Like this Derek thing's starting to string along a little bit, and I do think he's banged up. I do think he's dealing with stuff. I think a bunch of the guys who are struggling are. But that's just the reality, is that those guys haven't been the same this year, and that's part of this dynamic. And it's not much you can do. I know everyone's saying, go get this guy, trade Hauser, trade Brown. That stuff's not going to happen. It's going to be on their top 7 to figure this out. If they're good enough to win it again, they'll do it. If they're not, they won't. And that's going to be the story here. I like the idea of tinkering along the edge of the roster. I like the idea of trying some different stuff. I know we didn't see Shireman until like 4 minutes ago tonight. But it's going to be the top 7-8 guys.
He looked phenomenal in Maine, John.
I know, but
we read all about it.
No,
thank you. Thank you for reading my story.
And JD Davison is the greatest player in the history of the world. He is.
He's
superhuman down there. So
he does.
He looks like Chris Paul or something.
No, I know it's like your main, like basketball's your thing, and
he's Portland's Paul.
Other sports, you're not as. But there's a phrase we use in baseball called 4A. Have you heard that?
No.
So in baseball, you have three levels of the minor leagues: A, AA, AAA, and AAA is the highest. And there's a lot of guys who dominate in the minors, but they just, as soon as they go that one last level up from AAA to the majors, they go from JD Davison to JD Davis. So they call them 4A players. I'm afraid that both of those guys might be 4A players for the rest of their lives, which is capable
Baylor's
of
played 10 minutes in the NBA. Baylor has played 10 minutes in the NBA. Yeah. So we don't need to call him whatever the term is.
4A player.
I think
he's taken 11 shots. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there also are a lot of guys that looked really good in the G League that became good NBA players, like Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett, right? So we don't have to assume that just because they're playing well in the G League.
We're not assuming it.
Why are we just assuming it?
We're not assuming it.
Different.
What I'm saying is,
Shireman just got
Look
there.
what you did,
Davidson's
John.
been there 3
I don't
years.
think you're counting on Shireman at all this year, Bobby.
No, I'm not. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
I want to see him get in a game in a real situation, though. I don't think
I just had him in the corner today. I was like, I have him on point.
There wasn't enough time. They were just running out the clock. But whatever. Maybe see him tomorrow. Maybe there's some rust stuff going on. I know
It looked like you both saw a very good game up there in Portland yesterday.
That was
phenomenal.
Bobby. I was riveted
Down
by
to
your
the
tweets.
wire.
Riveted.
It was so
I
much
was
fun.
refreshing the feed because you at one time, Bobby, you're like,
when Davison fouled the guy with 3 points left in the Elam ending to the 123, I was like, oh my God, did they lose? And then next thing you just
And
get
then
the
the guy
tweet
missed
from
the free
Bobby.
throw.
Davison wins it. I'm like, it was
Well,
amazing.
That was the other thing is
I was
I'm
like-
following Bobby's tweets and he goes like, oh, like Maine's up 10. And then the next tweet's like, we got a tie game here with I'm like, wait a second. I've been following this the whole way. And you can't just take 15 minutes off if you're live tweeting the game up there.
So you had the Elam ending, right? Which I love. Nick Elam, who created it, actually retweeted me when I tweeted that I love that Elam ending. Bring it to the NBA.
I'm glad somebody did because those things were just falling on deaf ears most of the night. But it was really good.
You had an auto advance
to an
run.
audience of one all night, but I was watching it nonstop.
Be honest. How many followers did you lose last night?
No timeouts, John.
I lose followers every time I go to Maine. I lose followers.
No timeouts, John.
I was like,
They're
oh, Bobby's
down 3.
tweeted 47 times this hour, and he's gotten 3 people to respond.
John, no timeouts. You're down 3 at the end of regulation. You can advance the ball. That's just something you can do up there, and they do it. And JD hits a game-tying shot.
I know.
from the moon.
Yeah, no. It's the equivalent of someone telling you a story and you're not listening. You're just saying that's crazy the whole time.
You got free throws. You shoot one free throw that counts as 2.
The main thing, but that's crazy.
And then you're right, John.
And then what
They're about to
happened?
lose the game, sending the guy the line. He misses one, and they don't even call a timeout.
I'm not gonna
they just
lie.
go full court.
I'm 80%
that's
busting your
crazy.
balls, but 20% I was legit like, what the hell happened, man? Tell me. I really got into it by the end. At first it was a joke, but then I was like, did they? I got into it.
He had a couple of videos. You had the shot that put him into OT. That was a wild one off the Davidson hit there.
Yeah.
And
It was
then
good.
the one at the buzzer there, kind of on OT.
Hey, I'm a big Shireman believer. I
we
said
know.
it since the
I
draft.
would like to
you
be.
Got him at 30. You just played him a little bit in the preseason. He missed some shots, and I get it. The Walsh thing worked last year, so they're trying to do it again with him up there. And he's clearly not ready to give them playoff minutes. We haven't even seen him in a regular season setting. So I do think you're calling this year a wash. But, man, when you see him with the ball in his hands and he's throwing these full court touchdown passes and he's going behind.
That was a nice play.
The guy's magical with the ball in his hands. And so there's got to be something you can fit him into in the second half here. He's a shooter, right? That's what's killing Tillman, Walsh. Dude, he had 11 assists, Jimmy. That's not easy to do, even in the G League. And he's just a natural with the ball in his hands. So he's not going to be a major part of what they do in the second half here, but I just want to see them fit him into some kind of role because he's 24. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to develop and create a ton of upside with by sending him through this main track here. He's just going to go up there and dominate like we've seen. So at some point I do want to see, and maybe it's this weekend, maybe it's sometime soon here now that they've seen him really get rolling the last couple of weeks, fit him into a situation because they've tried everybody else, right? Springer, Tillman, Walsh, all the way down the bench. But we haven't seen Shireman yet with this group. And I want to see, I mean, we were talking to him last night. No, it's like no one even knows who he is. He hasn't talked to Joe. He doesn't hear from anyone on the team. He's just up there in Maine playing basketball and then does his film study. Like, get him down here, get him familiar with what's going on.
Does Joe even know his
He's
name?
like, nice to meet you.
Sure.
No,
Get him involved in Boston. Come on.
he FaceTimes Craig after every game.
Yeah,
and watches film.
Craig calls him and is like,
Craig's
are
the
you
head
still
of player
alive?
development.
Craig,
Come
who?
on.
The head of
One
player
their
development. He's an
coaches.
assistant.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that's good. So somebody's checking up on him. 3 people are checking up on him. Craig, Bobby, and Noah. I feel
Jimmy texted me last night. He's like, I don't think Shireman's mom is as into this game as Bobby is right now.
I'm his biggest believer, I think, unless Noah's higher. I don't know.
Yeah.
I believe in everybody.
Oh, you guys, there's
good.
enough room at the top for both of you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's gonna be a furious tweet off at the next main game and see who can fire up.
O'Shea's gonna be up there.
Did you drive there? Did you take the train? How'd you get up there?
I drove. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good. We can't
Maine.
possibly get less interesting than how Bobby got to the main game. So I think that's probably.
We'll hold the O'Shea.
We just spent time talking about him tweeting about it. Now it's like, how did you get there? No,
well,
we're done.
maybe there's some
That's
fans
it.
who are thinking,
It's a nice
maybe I'll
drive.
go to a
It's a
main.
nice
Maybe
drive.
I'll go to a
It's a
main.
great drive. Really scenic. Which part's your favorite? Which part of the drive's your favorite?
Yeah. Did you get any like seafood up there? Any clam chowder? How'd it go?
No,
All right,
no
we're
time
gonna
for that.
go.
I was locked in.
We're gonna be done now.
Love that.
We're back tomorrow. We got another one. We'll have all the kids here again, and it's gonna be great. A lot of fun. Celtics playing the Hawks. We will see who is there, and then hopefully there's a main game, and if not, West Coast baby. These guys are heading out there, so we got a nice, fun West Coast swing. Bobby and Noah will be taking in those games. LA, San Fran,
Wow.
LA, and Dallas. That'll be a lot of fun. So
LA
Celtics,
Bobby.
yeah, Celtics with a get right 29. With a get right 121-94 win over the Orlando Magic, improved to 29-12 on the year, and for one night only, potentially, we'll see. Quiet the critics and chill everybody out, and the freak out.
The critics sounded pretty loud tonight. I'll be honest.
There's no
They didn't
panic
feel that
meter.
quiet.
There's no panic meter. There's no blame pie.
No blame pie.
Okay.
We're good. It's a lot of
We might
intros.
see
That's all it
Porzingis
is.
tomorrow.
Should we do
Let's
credit
go.
pie? No, you want to play credit pie?
I call it credit
Yeah.
cake.
Credit cake. I like that.
Yeah.
Credit cake.
Credit
Tonight
cake.
actually affirmed me why I don't believe in the blame pie, because tonight I felt like it was
But you
equally.
believe in the credit cake?
No, I don't really. I feel like equally everybody deserves credit.
Everybody gets a
It's
medal.
true.
Everybody gets a medal.
Okay.
If you had to give it out, though, who gets the credit cake tonight?
No, you ever mess something up and say my bad?
Yeah.
You're basically taking a big slice of blame pie when you
Not
do
too
that.
often, though.
Everyone's not
Yeah, we
mad
can
at
tell.
you, but they're saying like, okay, Noah messed this up, so she gets the biggest piece of blame
Yeah.
pie, and you yourself acknowledge when you do that. Blame pie is not mean necessarily. It's just
It's
who
not about that. It's
contributed
not that I feel like
mostly-
it's mean. I think it's not reflective of what we're watching. When we take out certain guys because they're role players and okay, they get 0%. This guy gets like it just doesn't. It doesn't
Well, the
connect.
chat
With,
does the opposite. They blame everything on the role guys, so they don't have
Well,
to. blame
Noah, that's
Tatum
the
and Brown.
beauty of the blame pie. You can cut it up any way you want it. However, you did
Right.
skirt.
I know,
the-
that's why I
she-
cut it
she-
evenly among
she-
everybody
Well,
that's
I was gonna say she
in the
skirted the
building.
rule. Yeah, she's kind of messing with the integrity of the blame pie a bit. She's giving everybody equal slices, which I don't appreciate. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to prevent that from happening.
there's no
in the
rules
future.
against it.
She
So.
outsmarted the blame
She
pie.
did. She outsmarted us. We'll get her next time.
Oh, yeah.
But in the meantime, guys, we'll
Back
see
in
you
the lab I
tomorrow.
go.
Foiled curses. I would have gotten away with it if not for those crazy kids.
Right.
We're gonna wrap it up. Sherrod, poor Sherrod. He's wanted out for so long. He would have snuck off, but he was wearing yellow, and it would have been so like hard. It's like he's right there.
Sherrod,
like a
are
spot
you
in
there?
the middle of the screen, and he's stuck
I
there.
am here. I've just been
Sherrod?
on mute.
Sherrod's on his
I didn't want
third
you to hear
meal.
Yeah, I didn't want you guys to hear me bitching and moaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, we're gonna play the outro, but we're gonna intro the outro.
Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to
Same.
feel that
Same
way.
to you.
Let's fight Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke